What if I told you that the most dangerous tennis player alive right now is a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines who nobody saw coming? And what if I told you that today, in Rome, she has a chance to do something that would make an entire nation of 100 million people stop breathing at exactly the same time? Stay with me, because by the end of this, you are going to understand exactly why Alexandra Eala is not just a tennis player. She is something the sport has never seen before. And the match she is about to play could change everything. Let's start with a number that will blow your mind. When Eala walked onto the court at the Guadalajara Open earlier this year, her hands were shaking, not from nerves. From pure, concentrated hunger. She had spent years climbing through the grinding lower levels of professional tennis, watching other players get the spotlight while she quietly put in the work nobody films. Junior Grand Slams? Won them. The brutal ITF circuit, where most careers die quietly? Survived it. But Guadalajara was the moment where all of that invisible grind exploded into something the whole world could finally see. She found herself in a championship final against Hungarian veteran Panna Udvardy, a player who had been in these situations dozens of times. Eala had been there 0 times. And yet, she won. Not easily. Not cleanly. She dug herself into a hole, fought her way back from the edge, and closed out the match on championship point with her heart hammering in her chest. The moment she dropped her racket in disbelief, Philippine tennis changed forever. But here is the thing most people are missing. That tournament did not just give her a title, it rewired something deep inside her brain. She walked out of Mexico knowing she could survive the moments that break most players. That knowledge, that unshakable internal certainty, is worth more than any ranking point. And you are about to see exactly what it unlocks. Fast forward a few weeks to the Jingshan International in Hubei, China. Coming off that Guadalajara high, Eala had a first-round battle against Belarus's Aliona File, 2 tight sets, a medical timeout, the whole situation. The whispers in the locker room started immediately. Was the top-seeded Filipina running out of gas? Was the injury going to slow her down? Was this going to be a short run? Those questions lasted approximately 1 game into her second-round match against Japan's Mei Yamaguchi. 1 game. Because what happened next was not a tennis match, it was an execution. From the very first rally, Eala came out with a level of aggression that had Yamaguchi completely frozen. Her looping topspin forehand was kicking so high off the hardcourt that the Japanese player had no answer. She was being pushed 3 feet behind the baseline on every single point, completely unable to get inside the ball and attack. The first set scoreline tells you everything. 6-love. A bagel. Delivered in just 26 minutes. Yamaguchi did not face a single break point in the opening set. Not one. Eala held serve with such dominance that there was literally no opportunity for Japan's player to even sniff a moment of pressure. The second set offered slightly more resistance. Yamaguchi clawed her way back to break serve and lead 4-3. For about 4 minutes, it looked like there might be a match after all. Then Eala remembered who she was, swept the last 2 games without blinking, and closed out the whole thing in 1 hour and 12 minutes. 6-love, 6-3. It was not a victory. It was a declaration. She was not here to participate. She was here to take over. But now comes the part where things get genuinely complicated, and this is where the real story begins. Clay. Red clay. The surface that has ended careers, broken legends, and exposed every single weakness a player carries into the match. When the European swing started, Eala was stepping into a completely different world. Clay requires you to slide into your shots, construct long multi-shot rallies with the patience of a chess player, and physically outlast opponents in rallies that sometimes stretch past 30 shots. It is the surface that punishes mistakes the most brutally, because every error feels like it costs you twice as much energy to recover from. Eala's transition to European clay was not perfect. She faced left-handed phenom Iga Fernandez in Stuttgart and got a masterclass in what elite clay court tennis really demands. She played a strong doubles campaign in Madrid alongside Turkey's Zeynep Sönmez, competing at a high level in pairs, before the singles draw served her up a round 2 match against the defensive magician Elise Mertens, who dragged her into the type of grueling, grinding rally battle that Eala's game was not yet fully built to handle. She lost. And here is what most young players do in that situation. They sulk. They question their game. They take 2 steps backward mentally while pretending to move forward. What did Eala do? She packed her bags, absorbed every single tactical lesson those losses handed her, and got on a flight to the most iconic clay court tournament in the world. Rome. The Italian Open. the Internazionale BNL d'Italia, held at the legendary Foro Italico, because if you are going to figure out clay, you might as well do it in the arena where the greatest clay court battles in history have been fought. And that is exactly where things get dangerous for anyone standing across the net from her. Rome in May is not a tennis tournament. It is a gladiatorial arena with clay instead of sand. The crowds are operatically passionate. The courts are heavy, slow, and absolutely unforgiving. Last year, Eala's debut at this event was a rough education in what she still needed to learn. The 2026 version of Alexandra Eala arrived in Italy, carrying something completely different. Call it earned confidence, call it controlled rage. Whatever it is, it showed up immediately in her first-round match against Poland's Magdalena Fret, a seasoned, crafty veteran who has built an entire career out of making young players self-destruct. Fret's game plan is simple but deadly. She uses higher ball trajectories to disrupt rhythm, redirects your pace back at uncomfortable angles, and waits for unforced errors like a spider waiting at the edge of a web. Against Eala, that plan worked for exactly one set before it collapsed completely. The first set went to Eala's 6th love. Another bagel on clay, arguably even more impressive than the one she handed Yamaguchi on hard court. But Fret adjusted in the second set, mixing up her trajectories, slowing the pace down to a crawl, and forcing Eala into the type of exhausting war of attrition that breaks younger legs and younger minds. The Polish veteran took the second set 3-6. Suddenly it was a third set on the clay of Rome, with the sweat dripping and the muscles screaming and the entire match hanging in the balance. Here is where Eala showed something that you simply cannot teach a player. She did not panic. She went back to her heaviest topspin, went back to pushing Fret wide and deep, went back to the game plan that had worked and trusted it completely. She broke serve at the most crucial moments, closed out the decider 6-4, and marched into the second round. But here is the question that nobody has properly answered yet. Can she do it against a player who is not just crafty, but genuinely powerful? Can she do it against someone who has already beaten her this year? Because right now, as you are watching this, Alexandra Eala is preparing to walk out onto the breathtaking Nicola Pietrangeli Stadium to face China's Wang Xinyu, the 31st seed, the 24-year-old who hits the ball flat and hard, serves with elite power, and already owns a win over Eala from earlier this year at the ASB Classic in Auckland. That match was a 3-set nightmare for the Filipina. 5-7, 7-5, 6-4. Wang won it by the slimmest possible margin, but she won it. She knows she can beat Eala. She knows exactly where the pressure points are. She knows that Eala's second serve can be targeted, that her backhand side can be tested with flat, pace-heavy shots, and that if Wang can get her feet inside the baseline and dictate the center of the court early, she can take control of this entire match before Eala even finds her rhythm. Wang is coming in fresh after a first-round bye, fully rested, with a clear game plan and the psychological edge that comes from having already solved this particular puzzle once. So let me ask you this. Is that enough? Is a first-round bye, a clear game plan, and one previous win over Eala enough to stop what has been building across this entire 2026 season? Here is what I believe. For Eala to win this match, she cannot let Wang dictate the tempo. She has to play heavy where Wang wants to play flat. She has to rip that Nadalesque left-handed forehand cross-court with maximum topspin tay, forcing Wang to hit balls above her shoulder on her backhand side, where the Chinese player is far less comfortable. She has to protect her second serve aggressively, because any short ball against Wang is a free point handed over voluntarily. And critically, she has to use the wide angles of the Pietrangeli Stadium to stretch Wang side to side, testing her fitness in the Roman heat, building physical and mental fatigue into the match on her terms instead of Wang's. That is the blueprint. The question is whether a 20-year-old from Romblon province, who left home at 13 to train in Spain and gave up a normal childhood to chase something almost no Filipino athlete had ever chased before, can execute it under the pressure of a packed stadium in Rome with the hopes of an entire archipelago resting on her shoulders. When you watch Eala play, you are not watching a tennis match. You are watching the visible result of thousands of hours of invisible sacrifice. You are watching a young woman who trained while her peers were going to school dances, who slid on clay courts in Spain while other teenagers were living normal lives, who carried the weight of representing something larger than herself from the moment she started winning. Her face on court tells you nothing. She is impossibly calm, reading opponents with the cold precision of someone who has spent more time studying footage than sleeping. But beneath that stillness is a fire that has been burning since she was 13 years old and decided that one day, the world was going to know her name. Every time she steps on court, she carries a flag on her chest that represents over 100 million people in a nation that has historically given its sporting hearts to basketball and boxing. She has carved out a space for tennis in that country through sheer force of will. When she wins, the Philippines stops everything. And today, on the red clay of Rome, she has the chance to win a match that would send that country into absolute delirium. The history books are sitting wide open. The pen is in her hand. Do not look away.